Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Effects Tutorials, Demos, and Review. I am the Bass Negus, N-E-G-U-S, and of course, hit that like button for me if you haven't already, subscribe and all that good stuff. But pretty much we just hanging out here today, you know, getting it in a little bit. Let me see, let me fix my voice here, it sounded all, there we go, this is a little better. But yeah, so basically, we just kind of going through some things that you can do with your pedal boards and some kind of tips and tricks, you know, things that'll save you space if you need a smaller setup, or, you know, if you have more of an extensive setup, ways that, you know, little tips and tricks that'll help you. So first thing I would say is, you know, I know you see a lot of pedals here and all that good stuff, but first things first, pedals are not going to change your playing. They will enhance whatever you do, you know, not enhance in the way of like changing what you're playing, but, you know, it will open up new ideas and things like that, but it is not a fix for your, you know, the playing stuff, you know. You know, some stuff is just technique. But I gotta be able to do this first before I can play around with the filter. So, you know, you definitely want to work on your actual playing itself, you know, pay attention. First off, understand that technique is doing something the same way every single time. That's all it is. So you want to just develop good habits when you're practicing, you know, and try to do things the same way every time. When I'm doing, I'm not changing how I'm doing it every time I'm doing it. I'm literally doing it the same way every single time, and that came from slow practice. Right? So from there, second tip would be to add, you know, if you're not into multi-effects units, rethink about it. You know what I'm saying? So because a lot of, if you checking out my setup here, I don't know, let me see, switch over to Pedalboard view. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you chiming in. Feel free to hit that like button for me, everybody, and all that good stuff. Feel free to chat and let me see. Let me turn it on multi-stream so I can see everybody from all the different platforms. But thanks for chiming in, everybody. But second tip would be get you some multi-effects units in your signal path, your bass signal path. In terms of, it'll save you a lot of space. For instance, a lot of people don't look at the Enzo X as a multi-effects unit, but it absolutely is, you know, even besides the synth stuff. You got fade, all the modulations. So you got delays, modulations, reverb. You got one delay, but it's a stereo delay, and it's really good. And you also have filters in here. You can still use things like the noise generators as effects. And all that is this is the Enzo X by itself. So, you know, octavers, you got octavers in there as well, and drives. So these are all very useful things, and it's in stereo, in and out. So, you know, this right here can save me a lot of space, as well as things like the TC Electronic Plethora X1, which I can use as chorus or any of the TC Electronic effects. Give me 1 second, folks. I am going to just change over to I need to change my batteries in my bass. Sounds like it's getting a little fuzzy there. Let me check that out. Give me 1 second. See what we got over here. All right, so we're back. See if we. That's really weird. So, yeah, we back. Let's rock and roll. So, sorry about that, but you know, if you know, you know, things like that happen when you're playing. But yeah, the multi-effects units definitely help out tremendously when it comes to versatility in your rig. So let's get back to what we were doing here. So the Plethora X1, like I was explaining, is an excellent choice when it comes to, you know, like a single pedal, you know, a single form pedal that has a bunch of different effects. I would say stay away from that Boss plug-in, plug-out thing. It is not, don't even entertain it, because if you entertain that, then they're going to all start doing it, and that's a problem. So don't even entertain that. The HX1 is also, you know, worth recommending as well. Two different things, though. So the Plethora X1 is just going to be like effects, like all TC electronic effects. Modulations, delays, reverbs, octavers in there. Also have a couple compressors. So things like that really come in handy, you know, when you can just change it around. Compared to the HX1, it does have drives and other things in there, none of which I find particularly useful for bass, but they are in there. And the biggest thing is going to be what you need in out of a multi-effects unit. I use them for reverbs, delays, and modulations primarily. And if I need to use them for drives and stuff, I will, as you know, like I really like the Zoom ones. I like the Blueberry drive on the Zoom units. So, but also, I would say MS-70 CDR Plus is always an excellent choice. I think everybody should kind of have it in their arsenal. It has so many useful effects, and it sounds great. You heard the imaging on the track chorus there. Even using it mildly like that, but if you crank it up, it just gives you like a really super wide. let's compare that to the TC Electronic, the actual company that makes that tri-chorus, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, that's not really a fair comparison at the moment. But the reason why the TC Electronic one sounds a little smaller doesn't is because this is running in stereo, but it's coming out of here. It's an Atlas compressor underneath this board, and coming out of here is just mono. So not really fair, but trust and believe. You know. You know, you got great ads in there as well. Mind you, in the MS-70 CDR Plus, you also get things like a few bass things. You get bass octavers and stuff as well. Does have a bit crusher in there. Filters. Vibratos, modulations. You got a little bit of everything in the MS-70 CDR Plus, with the exception of like actual overdrives and distortions. Like, it doesn't do any of that stuff. Compressors, doesn't have any compressors on it either. But you got filters. Oh, it does have compressors. You got filters, compressors. You got some specialty effects. Delays, reverbs, and modulations. And the ones that are on there are exceptional. They sound exceptionally good. I'll go through a few more. And all these presets are available on the Patreon already. So if you already have an MS-70 CDR Plus and you want some of these presets, they're already available for you. Check out my Patreon. Check out that imaging. Look at the tail on that. Sweet. Yes, you can absolutely make a donation either through Cash App, Super Chat, any of that. Absolutely. Matter of fact, when you make donations of a certain amount, I even do, try to get to the pedal reviews that you want. For instance, one of the viewers made it possible for all that Future Impact content I did. They actually sent me half of the unit, half to pay for the unit, and made it possible. So, I also take the money from that I get in Super Chats or Cash App and from YouTube currently, I take a good portion of the money and I've reinvested and buy pedals that the community of you guys that are watching would like to see. So absolutely, do not be afraid to, put it in the memo. I know a lot of you guys want to see that MXR bass synth when they finally come back in stock. A lot of you guys have requested that I do a review of that, so I will absolutely be getting that. If you want to contribute to those different causes, some of the other pedals coming out. Source Audio just came out with a pedal as well. I absolutely am open-minded to all of that. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe as well. Definitely hit that super chat, and if you want to support every month, you can do that through Patreon. You want my presets for any of these pedals that you see that are digital, Enzo X, Future Impact, C4 Sim, what else? MS-70 CDR Plus, MS-60B Plus, and the Zoom B6. Got 11 different preamp packs so far for the ToneX series stuff too. So check all that out. So I think you guys are starting to really get the point. Multi-effects units definitely will, they can be placed in multiple places throughout your chain, depending on which effects you like the most out of them. Like the HX1 is at the end, really this looper is at the end of it, but the HX1 is at the end because I like a lot of the reverbs and stuff in there. So like this shimmer. Like this shimmer. What else? I like this. Like I love that delay on the, what is that? The Adriatic delay. You can hit that Cash App on the screen if you want to make a donation, or that would be the best way. But I also have Venmo and what's the other one? Yeah, I got Venmo as well. And I definitely appreciate that. Like this spotlight reverb is crazy. I like this one too. Especially when you add it with stuff like the deep freeze. Yeah, that joint's crazy. This heliosphere. Just massive delays and reverbs in there. So all that little stuff definitely helps. So having those different things, definitely help out. Different places on the board, whether it be Enzo X, Future Impact can be looked at as a multi-effects unit. So can the C4 synth and the Spectrum and, the original MS-60B over here. All those can be looked at as multi-effects units. So definitely, don't hesitate to add multi-effects to your unit. Now, another thing, try to avoid buying super redundant pedals. This is one of the reasons why I love the MS-70 CDR Plus. It keeps me from having to buy all these different modulations and things that I absolutely love. I love the modulations on there, and I love, a lot of the delays. The delays on there are really good. The reverbs as well. But it would cost me a lot. Just having that little unit saves me a ton of money. Having an HX1 saves me a ton of money because it has some extensive reverbs in it that really are really big sounding, and pretty much I can get everything out of those two units I need for my delays and reverbs, including shimmer reverbs and all that other stuff, which the Plethora X1 has as well. It's another reason why I have it on this board. This is my main little bass gigging board for most gigs. You know, if I'm not doing a solo gig, I don't really need all this extra stuff. But if I'm just doing a regular bass gig, this covers that. And having this here allows me to just pull up a chorus at the end of my chain or a nice reverb. And what it is this it's a Source Audio Atlas compressor underneath, running an 1176 compressor, running at 10:1 ratio with a longer attack and a shorter release. And I'm running that in parallel compression. So half of that signal is the compressed signal, half of it is the dry signal. And then I run that into a LA2A optical tube, pretty much preamp. I mean, not preamp, limiter, right? But I have that set to a so pretty much I have that running into a tube limiter, and I have that set to a 1:1 ratio, which means it's not compressing at all. And then I have that on 100%, meaning it's getting as much saturation from that sound as possible. So, you know, low having, and it's also an EQ pedal, so it's technically can be considered a multi-effects unit. You can get distortion out of that compression unit as well. So, you know, that's the crazy part. You know, different things have a lot of options. You want to get pedals that have a lot of options of things for you, not just one sound. Because the problem I have with taking all of my preamps and stuff out the house rather than just taking a ToneX One. ToneX One is going to allow me to pretty much take a bunch of spot on copies of all my preamps in different combinations, different EQ curves, and just have them ready to go, compared to if I do decide to, you see how chunky some of them are. Like this is a whole pedal space, you know. You get can't get that one out. Taking up a lot of space, you know. So when you have these different things, what's going on, folks? Appreciate y'all stopping by. No, I wouldn't say buy classic pedals. To be honest with you, classic pedals ain't gonna do much for you these days. You know, I kind of look at it like I don't do the vintage pedal stuff. I don't buy into it. I just don't. Like, you're gonna buy and spend all that money to get just a chorus pedal or just a whatever distortion, when nobody in reality can hear the difference between that and everything else when it's said and done and all processed and everything else. I wouldn't stress out about trying to get a bunch of classic pedals, or the pedals that all your heroes played on. Sometimes chasing your hero's sound is hindering you from creating your own. So I would recommend you get pedals that you like for you, not just because somebody else used them, or try them out, and then go from there. But I'm not sold on vintage pedals like that, to be honest. Yeah, having these different things at your disposal, um, and not buying the same thing over and over again is going to kind of give you space to also explore. You know, if you get a unit like a MS-70 CDR Plus, that's going to allow you to do a lot of experimenting with sounds, right? Same thing with an HX1, that's going to allow you a lot of variety of sounds. Plethora X1, Enzo X, Future Impact V4, VIP, even things like the Hog 2. Hog 2 is it has all these extra features to it as well. You got freeze and glissando in there. You got pitch bend and everything else. So you use it like a whammy pedal. You can use it like a wah-wah pedal. You can use it like a resonant filter. So, and you still got more octaves here than any other pedal is offering you at once. And you still got an enveloper. So that saves you money too. They just came out with this section here as a little pico pedal, like this size pedal. They just came out and put this and this, pretty much, and selling it for $200. When this unit, you can get one of these used for like $300 with the memory bank. You got to get this memory bank here. You need that for this, but this is something that will serve you very well. It won't be redundant in your rig because it's, as long as you don't go buying the same thing over and over again. Now, I do have the Pico version of the deep freeze because, of course, on my compact, my compact rig, I can't fit this Hog 2. This would literally take up this whole thing. So I had no choice but to get a deep freeze. So that's a case where it's not necessarily redundant. One, because this doesn't sound the same as when you use this one. So these two things sound different even though they have the same function. And this one has an auto mode. Things like that will make it easier for me to play and perform with it. So it's not necessarily redundant. It could be looked at that way, but it's not, it could be looked at redundant that I have, multiple units that could get the same similar type of reverbs, but they sound different. All these definitely sound different, and they sound different enough where I can have a big enough variety of sounds, to get it done. But if you ask me, am I going to go get a TC Electronic Hall of Fame reverb pedal? No. Am I going to go and get a TC Electronic delayed flashback? No. Am I going to have to go and get any of the TC Electronic pedals that this Plethora X1 provides for me? No. And I love the way these pedals sound. So it gave me a variety, but all these sound different than, most other pedals of this same brand. Like, I love their vibrato, things like that. And I don't have any vibrato pedals. I don't have, I have vibrato on those two units, the H1 and the MS-70 CDR Plus. But the thing about getting multi-effects unit is if it has the same effects on it, now I get all those extra ones. So it doesn't become redundant. It becomes expanding the palette a little bit. You can easily, find yourself buying things over and over again. Like with filter pedals as a basis, I love filter pedals, right? So I got a Spectrum and all of these, right? This Spectrum is actually redundant for this C4. I don't actually need this Spectrum, in terms of I can program this through the C4 through MIDI to get to the rest of the patches that this one is getting to. Reason this is here is because I review YouTube videos. So I need to have this here just for review purposes, you know what I'm saying? So all these different things, you got to take into account, when you see YouTubers with stuff, a ton of stuff, a lot of times they're getting sent that stuff. They're not paying for it up front a lot of times. So you got to take that all with a grain of salt. Sometimes it's stuff they bought, and sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't. But a lot of these reviews and stuff you watching is that product was sent to them for free while you got to go buy it. I buy my stuff, so, I want you to watch out for that as you're watching people's videos. But try to avoid buying a million of the same thing. You know, you want a variety. You know, it's not redundant to have a variety of something, a variety of courses, a variety of flangers and stuff, but try to avoid doing in search of that, try to avoid buying a million pedals that, you know, you're just going to have sitting around wasting money, wasting time, you know, all that good stuff. When you can get something like a Plethora X1, Zoom MS-60CDR, and the HX1, and all those are going to cover plenty of modulations, reverbs, delays, and, you know, all that extra stuff. So, what else? So, also, don't be afraid to try different pedals. So, meaning, don't be afraid to try out the specialty pedals like Mel 9, Key 9, Ravis Sitar, V256. Now, if you want to just have a little see, that's a little stuff you can easily just get to trying out different pedals. All that was the Mel 9. Now I can take something like the Key 9, do something similar. Or play it. Ravis Sitar. You also got things like the V256 vocoder, which is an excellent pedal and invaluable.
Testing the microphone. Testing the microphone. Testing. Sorry, wrong microphone. But yeah, you can do just about anything you need with this vocoder. You can do bass. Now, you can do chords if you want to. You can talk with. You can do any vocoder sound like this. This, you can do it. You can do Now I can just hold it. So if I take off the E, we're gonna add a color box tone model.
So that's what's going on underneath. It's just, it allows you to, one thing about the V256 a lot of people don't know is it also allows you to freeze notes. If you play a note and while you're holding it, you hold down the mic bypass, it'll create a drone from that. And if you want that drone to move, you got to press it again. So for instance, I can do
Testing. Testing.
that's just frozen there.
See, that's just frozen there. I'm not playing anything. Nothing else is on. It just froze. And I can put something on top of it. Like this. This. I can do it like this. I can do it like this. I can do it. I can do it. So let's do. Testing, testing the. So now I got all stopped, quiet, but I can take off the top, and I can play something else like this, and I can play something else like this.
Bam. So, that's the little gems right there. That's why you gotta subscribe and you gotta like this stuff and share it, because how is you gonna know what's going on? You know what I'm saying? How is you gonna know? Learn all this little stuff. Nobody else giving y'all tips and tricks like this. They keep it for themselves, and they don't even give you a chance to know what they doing like this. They give you the stuff they want you to learn, not the stuff you need. That's a trick you need right there in your arsenal. You know what I'm saying? If you happen to run across a used V256 or a brand new, and they still sell those brand new, definitely worth checking out. Changes the whole game for you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're a soloist or you do soloing. That V256 vocoder, this joint is it. Not only that, it also works for your, excuse me, it also works like has an auto tune type thing where you can sing, you can transpose your voice.
Testing, yeah, yeah. See how I just put that up in there. Where we at? I can also go like this, or I can make my voice go like this.
Testing. I can also make my voice be way up here. So now my voice is way.
Up here, now it's down there. So,
Cool feature. You can also have instrument control. Where am I? Let me see. Okay. Testing the instrument control. Testing the instrument controls. Test, and no, I cannot sing at all. No. Testing.
Testing, lots of options. Testing. Testing. Testing a microphone. Testing. Yeah, this is definitely testing the microphone, and it doesn't slide. That's pretty good. It doesn't really fast, really fast. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So,
Learning something new. So that V256 can be like an auto tune for you, a vocoder, voice changer. You know, if you want to add a little something funny into your set, or add a little intro with deep voice guy, you know, movie voice guy. You know, all these little things can add to it, you know, and that's a simple pedal that everybody's not going to need, but it's something that, and it's not even marketed as a bass pedal, you know. The point of this is try out different pedals, especially electro-harmonic stuff. Try out different pedals that'll give you different inspiration, you know, different. Don't always keep buying. How many chorus pedals you need, bro? How many, you know, I mean, dang, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but I definitely understand about preamps and stuff like that. Like I said, preamps make a huge difference, especially when you have things like, you know, company signature sound. So if I'm, you know, playing a gig, it might be more appropriate for me to have certain gigs might be better with that. Some gigs might be better with a more of an overdriven tone. Some might be better with a smoother tone. So it just depends on the gig. So, you know, different preamps definitely will help you get closer to that, you know, that sound. So I definitely get it. But getting something like a ToneX 1 will definitely even save you money in that realm, you know, so you don't have to keep buying preamps. I had to buy them all because when I was playing and as I'm playing, the ToneX 1 didn't exist, you know. So I had to get, and like all the preset packs that I created for you guys that are available on Patreon for the ToneX stuff was not available for me. You know, you guys can save a ton of money just getting a ToneX one, grabbing my preset packs on Patreon. Bam, you don't, instead of buying a $400, $450 pedal or 300, you know, 150, that's like, it's almost like $1,000 or some dollars worth of preamps just in pedals, not including the Jens Ben Shuttle or the little Mark Bass 3 that's back there, you know, and the Ampeg BA210 V2, you know, the Harkey TX 600, all those different pieces of gear cost me hundreds of dollars, and you add all that stuff up, that's, you know, it's about $2K that you can get for about 200, you know. So, and you'll have, if it's good enough for the person that owns it, that means I actually own these preamps. You know, I listen to them extensively, play with them all the time, and that's spot on. All these emulations or tone models are spot on to what I set them to. And that's actually a color box running into the Jens Ben Shuttle 9, which has a tube preamp in it, pushing the tube on there as well as pushing the saturation on the color box just slightly. So just right there, you're saving, you know, $700 from, you know, you don't have to have all these different combinations of stuff, because I'm actually making packs with the color box running into all these different preamps. So you'll actually have it like you have a color box and you're running it into whatever these different amp heads is, and then you just have them all in your ToneX one. You know, it will make your life a lot easier and simpler. And you still got all the other preamps. You just run this, you know, whatever signal chain you have the ToneX one in, just run that straight into the amp return of an amplifier, or the, you know, not the amp return, the return, the effects loop return, or the power amp in, and you in business. B15, color box running to a B15. Mark Bass 3. So, you know, getting things like the ToneX one definitely will save you thousands of dollars, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, people like myself have already done that work for you, you know, putting out that money for you, basically. You just have to own the ToneX one, and then you can go and grab preset packs, and you're going to be spot on. And as things progress and upgrade, you just upgrade it. You know what I'm saying? And you've spent a lot less money than I've had to spend on a color box, Ampeg SGT, uh, Gensler, Magellan preamp. You know what I'm saying? Aguilar AG preamp, Eden WTDI, and all these other preamps that are available on the Patreon. You know what I'm saying? So that saves you money, even though I make money in the process of you buying it. So does IK Multimedia. So does everybody that sells you something. The point is, does it save you time or does it save you money? And it does that with both. So, you know, it takes time to make them tone models. So, I would say my next tip would be to get a good power supply. Do not be out here with one of them chain power supplies. It's just you're going to ultimately do yourself a disservice, and it's going to introduce unnecessary noise into your signal. You know, so and now if you got to do what you got to do till you can do better, right? So, you know, if you got a noise gate, use your noise gate. If you can't afford a good power supply, because they're not cheap. You know, I've recommended a couple. The MXR ISO brick, that's what I'm running under here, and that actually has eight 9-volt outputs and two 18-volt outputs. And two of the 9-volt outputs are also variable, so you can go from 9 to 15 volts on those. So, you know, that gives you some flexibility in a small unit. Those about 160, 170. Or you can get something like I use two True Tone CS12 to power this board and this board separately. You know, so that also those about $250 a piece. So I can recommend them. Say they're sturdy. They also have a high milliamp, you know, rating, and they can carry a lot of you know devices that need a lot of power. Like I've never ran into an issue of not having enough milliamps on you know coming out of these power supplies, and I've never had any noise issues either. So both of those power supplies I would greatly recommend and say those are going to be invaluable to you. One, in setting up and getting out. So if I take this board here, I only have to plug in one thing, even though I have 8 pedals here. It's 7 up top, it's 1 down here on bottom. And so I don't have to do anything but take this little joint out the case, plug my bass in here, come out of here out the bottom to the amp, and most times I'm not even taking the DI box because most of the amps have XLR out, so I'll just hit pre and have this come out pre that. Now, I also can have it run to a box as well, you know, a DI box, and that'd be my next thing, you know. I'll talk about DI boxes. Like if you don't want to, because as you can see, because I'm not taking any of these preamps, which are all DI boxes, I now have to have something else, you know. And I particularly like the Canvas stereo DI, and what that actually allows me to do is to come out of here stereo if I'm running this by itself, because a lot of times all of a sudden nobody got a stereo DI for the bass player, of course. So coming out of here, actually right here is a underneath, you can see it kind of dangling there. That's actually the Canvas stereo line isolator. And line isolators are good, you know, especially if you have something like a ToneX one, you know, so you don't have to stress about trying to push the signal so much, you know. So let me see what we got here. Did I just move that? Let me check it out. This is where those line isolators really come in handy. running it in line isolator mode. Way down. And I don't actually have to push my signal anywhere near as much. Which ultimately makes a world of a difference. Huge difference. And I'm not sure why. I mean, because you can get a regular DI, but these line isolators when you're using stuff like the ToneX one, or a lot of people think you don't, need, you just run it into a DI box. DI box, the problem I found with it is when I'm running into a DI box, it makes me have to push the volume of it so much that it introduced in the gain and try to just compensate for volume so much. It's weird. It's like when I'm using the line isolator, you just seen we've been on DI this whole time. Well, I had it on DI. See, this is not, the difference is this isn't stepping my signal down, and then I'm trying to compensate somewhere else for it. This literally allows me to have the gain on my mixer down to almost zero. Where's the gain at on that? So the gain is plus 6 dB on there, which ain't having to push it much, But as you can hear, it's a nice full sound. I can't say that sounds better to me. Yeah, for me, that canvas stereo definitely adds something. So if it was let me put it back in DI mode, see, so you can hear the difference. It's more so the noise floor I'm hearing the difference in, like just the. See, I've actually added gain to it. And I still would have to like turn certain things up. compared to in line isolator mode. I can bring my volumes down and still get louder somehow, like still get like clear. It's like it improved the headroom. Like it sounds bigger. I hope that's translating, but it sounds bigger. You know, even when I put it in DI mode, and I just try to get to the same volume, I have to push either the gain on the mixer a lot more. I have to push the faders a lot more. I have to push the volumes here and here. Just in general, my original bass signal volume more than when I'm using the line isolator mode. Mind you, I'm achieving the same volume just about. I can even bring this down, so I can bring down my faders a little bit more. And it just sounds better. It just sounds better, you know. I'm actually blown away at how much difference it makes myself. You know, I didn't think that the Canvas stereo a line isolator or any line isolator, I didn't even, you know, I'm like, what's the difference between that and the DI boxes? I'm not seeing the difference or hearing the difference. It's a difference. It is a difference. It sounds bigger, sounds more open. It sounds exactly how I want my preamps to sound. Now and not only that, but I can route it. I can so I can run stereo in. So I'm running when I get to this part of the board over here. Well, actually, when I get to the MXR layers onto the MS-70 CDR Plus and the HX1 and the Jam Man Solo HD, all that's running stereo into the Canvas stereo line isolator, and I can also split that signal so it goes to both of these amps back here. So if I wanted to, okay. So if I wanted to, I could have both amps on. Switch to this other mic, see if that works out for me at all. Appreciate y'all hanging with me. Hit that like button while you're hanging out with your boy. Also, if you want to send something through the Cash App, Super Chat, all that good stuff, I definitely would appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? But besides that, hit that Cash App and that like button. Let's see. Did I unplug it? Yep. see what this feel like. So it even makes sure stuff like that. If I can sum it and have those run in mono as well. So I don't have to run those in stereo. Dang it. Come on. What am I getting tied up here? I don't have to run those in stereo. I can, run those in mono. And, the canvas stereo line isolator just gives you a lot of good options there. So, with a lot of good options like that, the canvas stereo definitely can be like a hub for you in a way where it gets you out of your board with great sound, pristine sound. You know what I'm saying? And that's the key, like to get this sound, the best possible signal to the board. And a lot of times, venues and stuff are not going to have line isolators for sure. They'll have DI boxes, and as you heard there, having a line isolator will make a huge difference in your rig, especially when you're running things like digital pedals and amp modelers and stuff. Get you a canvas stereo. I know it's not the most exciting pedal to have in the world. I know. Trust and believe. I was on the fence about it because it's like I was $200 something. I could get another this pedal or another that pedal for that. But the line isolator has made it so like all my tone models just come through like nice and crisp and big, and I'm not having to really push the volume too much on them. And it makes them feel a little bit more realistic. Now let me see what that sounds like with the IRs on. I could turn the IRs. Dang it, just locked it. Mind you, this is reminding you that this is an IR. This is the preamps running and the ToneX running into an IR, which is running pretty much a is that I have a Fender Bassman Neo 115 back here, and that's what it's that's the IR is running that. And what is that by who's I forgot the mic that it's using, but yeah, that is one of my custom IRs, you know, so you can get some. So it pretty much is like running the way I have it set up. I have it set up so like it's like I'm running the same cabinet with the same mic setup. So that's not changing, but all I'm changing is the actual preamp sound. If I really want the sound of a speaker. So, you know, as you can hear, the speakers, like a speaker kind of acts as a high pass and a low pass filter of your sound, and really just really tames those highs. Right? Without, because it's not like my highs are accentuated on my bass or anything. They're just they are, it's just that these are stainless steel strings, and this is a really bright bass in general. And it's not just that, it's the way that cabinet sounds in this room, running through that mic, running through my preamps and everything else that I'm using. So it's so you can hear there's a clear difference between those two. I don't know what is with musicians on you or people on YouTube when they come on my live stream. They got all these song requests and stuff. This ain't the karaoke hour, and I get paid to play what other people want me to pay. So if you want to send me some money, you want to send me some Cash App or something like that, I can pull some of these requests off. But otherwise, I don't know. Y'all might as well go on somewhere else if you think I'm fixing to play karaoke man on here. That's not what I do. You know what I'm saying? I play for enough cover bands. And guess what? All those cover bands, all the churches I play for, everybody that want me to play what they want me to play, they got to pay me. Now, I play for free. I pay for myself for free. But if you want me to play what you want me to play when you want me to play it, you got to pay me. And that's what all musicians need to be. They want you to play something the way they want you to play it, when they want you to play it, make them pay you. Don't do that for free. That ain't free. You don't go to a plumber and say, hey, can you just fix my sink for me for free? Because I saw you on YouTube? Like, you don't do that. People, wow. Now, you know, see clearly talk about something. Play Freebird. Like, what? I ain't even talking about songs right now. Clearly talking about pedals. But adding IR definitely adds a little something to it. Like, the only thing I would want the ToneX, the IK Multimedia, if you ever watching my stuff, I need y'all to add a mix of the preamp and the IR, not just the dry signal and the combined wet signal chain. I need one more mix knob for the preamp and the IRs, and I'll be happy. Yeah, and then, so most of the time I just play with the IR off for that very reason, because I can't mix in the preamp sound. So I'd rather just go with the full frequency sound. And they can do whatever they're going to do with it at the board, you know. Or I would run my B6, my Zoom B6 allows me to have high quality IRs, my custom IRs on there as well. And I would typically mix about 10% of the IR, 90% of the preamp signal. So that's typically how I kind of set up my sounds. All right, so the next thing about your pedal board, next tip, make sure that, well, you don't always need all these different signal paths. Like, you know, a lot of times adding more signal paths on a gig is just going to add more problems for you. By signal paths, you know, you see I have a bunch of different effects loops here, stuff like that. All those can be considered different signal paths. But the hard part about when you're on stage, if you know, I do use MIDI. Like, I do have a MIDI setup rigged in my board. This is CME H2 MIDI Pro, and that's being controlled by the MIDI captain on the floor. But I would say just simplify it as much as possible. And this is coming from somebody with all this stuff, okay? So try to simplify your live stuff as much as possible. I know this seems complicated, but a lot of it's not. For instance, like, this always stays on this particular patch that I created in here using this, you know, this has the presets and stuff already in it, and I pretty much keep it on my one vocoder, main vocoder preset. Here I only use a couple sounds out of here at times. Same thing with here. I'm using 3 or 4 particular sounds, but I know all I do is literally turn the little white knob on each one of these, and it gets me all the sounds I want. You know, I already have everything set up, dialed in. I do particularly favor pedals that allow me to have different presets, and especially through MIDI. You know, but you want to just keep that signal path in general as simple as possible. Most gigs, something like this, you don't need to have like a bunch of switchers and stuff. This is small enough where you can just have one signal path, And if you have a chorus or something, you need to learn how to mix it properly. So, most stuff, if you're just playing a regular solo, you don't need 40% of reverb. Like, that's way too much. You need to be bringing that around like 10, 12 maybe percent or less. Same thing with delay, but maybe even less delay if you're going for like a room sound and a more natural sound where it's like your bass is in a room, solo wise. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going for pads, then you need those longer, bigger delay and feedback times and things like that. So that's something that you got to be conscious of. You know what I'm saying? When you mixing and stuff, you can get up to that 40% when you're doing pads, but you just doing a general bass solo or something like that, that's a bit much. Now, same thing with compression. You don't want to over compress your sound. Even though that's going to be pretty much mostly the sound. Like, you want to say if you got an input mixer, input compressor, and an output limiter, I like to keep my input compressor around 2.2 to 1 ratio, and a longer attack, shorter release. And then when I get to my limiter, I like to have that a 10 to 1 ratio running parallel compression. And a lot of times they don't have to do any more compression after that, but they also, it's not so compressed, because that's what you're listening to now. It's just compressed just enough to control some of those really, really extreme peaks and things like that, But you don't want to over compress it, and you don't want to over mix in like chorus and stuff like that. You want to even with your chorus and stuff, you don't want to go half like that, a little less. That's a nice clear chorus there. You can bring that down a little more if you just want to improve your stereo imaging. You just want it to sound a little bigger. You don't have to always use it in such an extreme way. What's going on, folks? Appreciate all y'all chiming in. Make sure y'all hit that like button for me while you're here. Vibrato, if you want something more natural, you keep it more subtle. But typically, you wouldn't be using super extreme versions of vibrato. Something that kind of sings a little bit more. You're not always going for the extreme sound. Sometimes it's just having those subtle little things in there. Still move, I can still move. You see how you can still identify my bass in there. I'm keeping enough low end to even though I got on a flanger, I have on a low pass filter, a swell vibrato on that, and you know that's just turn the flange off and turn it back on. So you see how much that flanger is doing without it being an extreme setting. It's like, yeah, you almost don't even notice it. Bring this down just a tad bit. So everything else, the swell vibrato and the filter, low pass filter is still on, but that analog flanger was one of the main reasons I couldn't get rid of the HX1. I love this joint. It sounds so good. Turn it on. I love how you almost don't even notice that it's on until it's on, like until you turn it off. Like it just signal just becomes bigger. Oh, what are we doing? What are you doing? Oh, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. But if you just notice, it's That's with that flux with the more extreme setting. So typically, the way I use the flux button on there, I usually have one more really like more subtle, but still effective. Extreme setting. Compared to the, the two different settings, you barely, when you turn it off, you really can hear that it went away. Appreciate the love, folks. It's the analog flanger is what we're using right now, which you're listening to. And the HX1 does a bunch of different stuff, bunch of different stuff. But my favorite things is the only modulation I like on here, to be honest, is the analog flanger. I don't use any other modulations on there. The MS-70 Plus has far better modulations, and a better variety that are, not just specific to guitar, but also bass. And even the guitar stuff for me sounds richer on there. But I like this analog flanger, and there's no other flanger I've heard like this one. It's literally one of the main reasons I had to keep it. I was really considering sending it back just because I'm like, it's not, the reverbs ain't that crazy, but the reverbs get wild though. But they, nothing, they have extreme reverb times that the MS-70 CDR Plus doesn't have. But all the, within normal reason stuff, the MS-70 CDR Plus has it. You know what I'm saying? But I really love this analog flanger. That thing's fire. So, other thing I would recommend for your pedal board is, if you can, get you a nice, decent little MIDI setup. Something like this little CME MIDI, CME H2 MIDI Pro. That is the MIDI hub. Yeah, it's easy to switch between effects on all of these. That's what I'm talking about now. Literally, the MIDI. I use the MIDI Captain, which is this blue pedal down here. That has all these different preset, program changes and stuff like that, and CC messages, so control changes, stuff where I can change whatever pedals that have MIDI. So HX1, the MS-70 CDR Plus, both of the Spectrum, Source Audio Spectrum, Source Audio C4 Synth, the MS-50G, the Enzo X, and Future Impact all can be controlled via MIDI. So that makes my life a lot easier. And what that does is, it means like right now I only have just the HX1 and MS-70 CDR Plus, and the Hog 2 has MIDI, and V256 has MIDI as well. So Hog 2, C4 Synth, MS-70 CDR Plus, and HX1 are all running MIDI right now. So I can have the Enzo X and the Future Impact. I just haven't set it up for it. Actually, I need to change. What channel is the C4 synth running on? Channel 2, that's channel 3. I think that's. I want to say I got that on channel. That's the other thing. You got to remember the channels. I should have just set them to the names. HX1 should be going to 1. You know what I'm saying? And MS-70 CDR Plus should be going to 7. C4 synth should be going to 4. Hog 2 should be going to 2. So, but the Hog 2, I think I had to do that on channel 16. So, it's just, you got to remember, you do need to remember what, you got to remember what MIDI channels is everywhere, because that becomes another thing to memorize. But, yeah, other than that, I need to, you know, I move something around on the pedal presets. So it automatically made me have to change other things. But that's the Hog 2 now. You know, so you get different sounds out of it without having to struggle too much, having things set up on MIDI. So just basically getting like all that under control, so you don't imagine me trying to switch all them. That's one, two, three, four. That's four pedals. I can just switch very easily with one switch, and that saves me a ton of time. So MIDI, if when you can for preset changes and different things, is a game changer. I gotta MIDI it up, so I add on the Future Impact and the um, Enzo X as well. And the Spectrum. So like if you start adding in the MIDI, that makes this way less complicated. When you're performing, setting it up is going to be a mug. It take a while. It's frustrating, but the MIDI. The cool thing about the MIDI, once it's set up, it's no hassle. You just see right there, went from bypass. See, I can also choose to turn everything off at once as well, so I can go from straight up bass sound to a solo. And all I had to do was press one button. Press the second one, and I can press that second one twice, and it also turn on. When I first press it, no matter what the Hog 2 is on, it turns it off, which is super cool. That is super cool no matter what. So it's on. Right, I turned it off, right? But say I turned it back on that bypass patch. Even when I switch over, it's just going to switch over. Unless I double tap it. I mean, it's going to go off. But if I press it again, it'll turn the Hog 2 back on. So it's not only programmed for the patch change to get the sound to one. So say I change this to there. I press this. Bam, back to 1. Then I can also turn it off from there. I can also control various parameters. Like if I wanted it to do like a wah-wah effect every time I press it, like every time I press it, it opens up. Or if I wanted to access this freeze gliss Hondo mode in there via MIDI, I can do that and not have a direct expression pedal hooked up to it. I can have a anything hooked up to it that'll generate, that expression on and off, or generate that value. So that's the other cool option. When you have a MIDI rig like this, the pedals that have MIDI that allow you to do control changes, like parameter changes via MIDI, you can now have one expression pedal set up to control multiple pedals, changing multiple parameters at once. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, you can have this set up to trigger sheet music on your stuff. You can have it set up to trigger light shows. You can have it set up to trigger anything that accepts MIDI. You know what I'm saying? You can have it triggered to set up the entire band's patch change at once, if you really wanted to. That's the crazy part. You could set this up and daisy chain it probably to another one or something like that, and have all the messages run through both of them, have enough setup where you press one, it's like pressing one of the other switches, and bam, it's an amazing what you can do with MIDI. And we haven't even gotten into controlling other things with MIDI notes, what you can do with the Future Impact V4 VIP. This is the only pedal that allows you to actually play other MIDI devices, other MIDI instruments with it. So all I gotta do is plug in the instrument here, get it set up like I'm playing the internal synth, then turn on the MIDI out, take a MIDI out of here into the MIDI in of a keyboard, and bam, I can play those sounds as well. So I would also, on the MIDI side of the game, recommend a Future Impact V4 VIP, because it doesn't take up a lot of pedalboard space. You're gonna get the best. This is the best vintage bass synth mono synthesizer right here, the Future Impact V4 VIP. It gets the exact sounds. Yee! It gets you exact sounds, you know what I'm saying? So it's literally the best one, So I'd recommend something like this as well if you want to be able to play other MIDI capable devices with something. So those are the two MIDI hacks I would say for this, tips for this particular video would be to get you something like a MIDI Captain and CME H2 MIDI Pro, or you can get I think what's that company name? Luminite. I think it is Luminite. They make nice stuff too. I was considering getting one of those because you got the little screen, like a bigger display screen and all that type of stuff with it. So it really just depends on how much gear you want to use on stage and how you want to use it. You can also get MIDI versions of these effects loops. Like this is a three effects loop pedal. So I would say, and I got these are like $40 on Amazon. These are passive and you don't have to power them, but I do so I can have the LED lights. But they're passive. They don't, they sound good. They don't affect your tone at all. So very, very good for $40. These are T-Tone 3-way effects loop, or something like that. I believe it's called. And so check those out if you need something like this. Where first loop is the C4 Synth, Hog 2, and Spectrum. Third loop is the Key 9, Mel 9, Rabbit Sitar V256. Third loop is just the MS-50G. And the reason I have this on its own separate loop is because even when it's the older units, Zoom units, these multi-stomps, they still color your sound when they're bypassed. So I don't want it to color my sound as bypassed, but I want it to still be available to me. Same thing here, but I only have one additional effects loop being used here, and that's just the filters here. And the rest of it's coming out of the looper into the MXR layers, MS-70 CDR Plus, and so forth and so on. So, having these little tools in your arsenal definitely will improve, these little tips and will improve your pedal board situation. You don't want to be fumbling live. Have all this stuff worked out. Have things that don't try to get, if it's not a specialty pedal or something that is very specific that you really just need the sound of, try to get stuff with presets. The digital stuff these days is amazing. It's not even, excuse me, it's not even funny. If you haven't checked out Guitar Rig as a plugin and a standalone effects unit in your computer, check that out as well. That's another little effects unit I use, or effects algorithms I use. Is that the Guitar Rig is amazing. Has some amazing stuff in there. But try to use things that have presets to them. Things that are better analog. Some things are going to be better analog, and some things are going to, what if I had unlimited space and unlimited stuff and roadies and everything else? Yeah, I might be tempted to take the preamps, but even then, I might still just take the ToneX One, because the ToneX One has those exact sounds. It's you're not going to get that much difference between the ToneX One and the actual preamp. So, other than nobody's gonna know the difference. You're not even gonna notice the difference. I don't notice the difference. I know exactly what each one of these is the tone model for. Like, it sounds like that. It sounds like a color box running into an Aguilar. It sounds like a color box running, or sounds like an Aguilar or Gensler Magellan by itself. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of know the characteristics of the sounds individually. But this, you put it in what's this? I forgot what mode this is, but this is like selector mode or some, pretty much library mode or something, whatever. This is where you can change those three presets right there. So you press this alt button and the bypass button at once, and it'll take you to here. And whichever one is blinking is on. So if I want to change any patches here, I can do that. Have them all different, set up differently, and just have my 3 patches for a show set up right there, ready to go on the ToneX one. But you know, same thing with all these synth pedals. Like I'm not fooling with none of the parameters when I'm playing with it live. I'm just switching patches, just switching presets. So you know, same thing here, just switching presets. I'm not fiddling. I don't know why everybody wants to have so many of the parameters available to you on the pedal. That is irrelevant. Who is doing all this tweaking during the show? You should never be doing all of that tweaking and touching all of this, doing all that during the show for real, unless it's part of your show. Like some people, part of the show is them tweaking, you know, the people seeing them tweak things and make things like Yannick Guazdala, that's part of his show. Like, what's that other group? Chromeo? Is it Chromeo? It's one of those groups. But they definitely have a ton of different like synthesizers and stuff, and it's like the synthesizers is part of the show. It's part of the the setting of it all. So if you're not in that situation, then you might as well get you some digital versions of things that'll work. I'm trying to tell you, some of these pedals I was recommending, things will definitely save you a lot of time. They're going to save you a lot of money, and they're going to save you a lot of frustration on stage. You also, if you are going to use this many pedals, you need to have effects loops that you can take in and out in case anything happens. You can just take that section of pedals out, period. You don't have to fiddle around with stuff. And when you get your money up, you get you a MIDI, incorporate MIDI into your setup, and get you a MIDI effects looper. That's my next thing. I'll tell you how it is now. This is a piece of junk. This Do Re MIDI MES-8 is a piece of junk. Don't even waste your time. I tried to, try out some little stuff for the channel, for the little cheaper Alibaba stuff, That Do Re MIDI MES-8 is trash. It's trash. I've had 2 of those units go out, and I actually got 2 of them here. They so cheap that they just sent me another one, and that one fell apart even sooner than the first one. And mind you, it was working. When it was working, it was great. If this thing was solid, like if it had just kept functioning the way it was, and it did have a little buzz at times, it was a little off at times, but if this thing could do what it says it can do, this would be an amazing piece of gear. But it just can't. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 MIDI effects loops on here. That was all MIDI programmed. I had it all programmed in my MIDI captain and everything, switching MIDI loops. I got rid of all of these loopers here. All the effects loopers there, and had to undo my entire pedal board because something like this, you have to incorporate into your entire pedal board. You can't just throw it on there and then it's in your chain. This is your entire different chains, all your different pedals are running through here. But I would say, go with something like the Morning Star, or I think it's Illuminite. I want to say who is it, but I can't figure out who did that. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so those are tips. You know what I'm saying? Have it set up logically. If you don't have to have analog stuff, like I have to have this Empress compressor. Nothing sounds like it, and none of my digital compressors perform that same way and add that same saturation. Only digital one, but I still have a digital one even after it. I have the Source Audio Atlas compressor running last in this effects loop. So it's like the digital has really caught up to the analog in terms of you can get you can get great sounds out of either one. It just depends on you. It's more you than it is the gear. So definitely check out some of these tips. If this is helpful to you, leave some likes, you know what I'm saying? Leave some comments relevant to this, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what is people's deal in song requests. But and then when you don't play the request, they turn off the video. Like I was supposed to I turned on your channel. That means you play what I want you to play. Spotify. No, that's not the way it works, folks. You want me to play something that I don't want to play, you got to pay me. That's the way it go. I play music for free for myself. I do music for free all day long. But if you want me to do it the way you want me to do it, and when you want me to do it, you got to pay me. So this has been another episode of All Bass Creations, effects, tutorial, demos, and review. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Please hit that like button and subscribe on your way out. If you feel up to it, leave something in the Cash App for me. You know what I'm saying? And if you would like to support the channel more, you can do that more on the Patreon. And, $1 or $5 a month helps the channel out greatly. And if you want to buy any presets for the ToneX 1 or the ToneX series pedals, the Enzo X, the Future Impact V4 VIP, the C4 synth, the Zoom MS-70CDR Plus, the Zoom MS-60B Plus, or the Zoom B6, all of that stuff is on the Patreon. So make sure you go there and check it out. Grab you the preset pack if you want to support. I everybody that supports my channel and patronizes me, thank you. If you want to check out my music, allbasscreations.bandcamp is where you can find all my music. I did an entire album with just my bass and effects, no MIDI at all. And then I did some singles on there as well, where it's me playing everything, drums and piano and everything. So check that stuff out. Find me on all social media at the Bass Negus, Negus. Again, that's at the Bass Negus, Negus. And I would greatly appreciate it. You guys have been wonderful, chiming in. I definitely appreciate every single one of you guys being here. It means a lot. All right, guys. I will holler at you